That's weird.
My dog doorbell rang.
So I thought it'd be fun to break down my initial approach and just talk a little bit more in depth about why I do, why I say what I say at each point that I make during this initial approach with this gentleman. So I think the first thing that can easily be pointed out and seen is, I'm talking to the guy who's doing the video, I'm smiling, we're just having our own conversation, and then this guy comes to the door, and I'm already smiling, having a good time, like just, enjoying the opportunity, I think is the most important thing. And, that needs to happen whether you have somebody you're knocking with or not. Always having a smile on your face, just being happy, looking like you're enjoying yourself. Even though we all know door-to-door sales isn't the most enjoyable thing, we certainly have to come across as though we're having a good time and enjoying ourselves. That was the first point I wanted to break down there.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you got a great doorbell there. It sounds just like a dog. What kind of dog was it? Is it
she's a American Staffordshire.
Okay.
AKA pit bull.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked more like a pit bull to me.
She is tiny. She's a little 45 pounds.
Okay.
Small frame, so she's not the big.
Yeah, the
meaty,
husky ones that
yeah.
you're scared to death to look at. Yeah, my dad was a canine policeman, so we always had big dogs, shepherds, Rottweilers, those types.
So this next part here, I probably took a little bit more time than normal to ice break. And quite frankly, this guy was probably a little bit, unusual himself in terms of he didn't want the dog to get out. And rather than, as we've seen before where the door is just barely cracked or, somebody's trying to kick the dog back and they open the door just a little bit. He actually came out on the porch. Again, not a usual occurrence here, just what happened at the time we were recording. So what I did with him coming out of his, protection zone of being able to just shut the door and go back in the house, I just felt like, well, I'm going to talk to the guy then. And so my ice breaking piece came in quite a bit longer than it normally would. I'd normally just kind of one quick little one-liner and kind of move into my pitch. But again, somebody's willing to talk with you. They're smiling. They're kind of happy to see you. It doesn't hurt to start building that confidence by having more of a conversation with them.
So, anyway, just really quick, my name's Lenny with Road Pest Control, the bug guy. I don't know if you know Mohan and Vamsi. They're actually just down there talking right now. One lives this way, one lives that way. Anyway.
This part was pretty simple. I wanted to get my name drop out. Again, I had sold a couple of this guy's neighbors, so certainly I've earned that to where I can name drop those customers. And again, what name dropping does to me, it legitimizes me having a reason to be in the neighborhood. If I don't have names of customers, then it becomes a lot more difficult to name drop and have that backing that, yeah, these are actually customers that we're going to be out here taking care of tomorrow. But name dropping, super important, a super important way to get you just, again, that sense of, hey, I'm here and I have a reason to be here on your doorstep.
We're going to be servicing their home. We've had a group of neighbors that have kind of wanted to set up some kind of a pest service. Not because they're having bugs yet, but the new homes with the new construction is certainly something of a concern. A couple of neighbors are starting to get the spiders and the eaves, and the vinyl siding is obviously, things can get underneath that. Anyway.
On this piece, there's two things in particular that I'm trying to accomplish. Number one is kind of to let him know what I'm doing in the neighborhood. Like, I've name dropped, and now it's just, again, giving him a sense of what's going on in the neighborhood. And then I also want to get in front of a common concern that I'd been hearing in that neighborhood, and that was, well, we don't have any bugs because we're in a relatively new area. And so, again, to me, anytime you have a common concern in an area, I want to address that initially. The other, I think, good thing to point out in this piece here is my use of my hands and my nonverbals. I'm kind of moving around a little bit, a lot of hand movement, showing where spiders get, pointing out siding, and just really trying to customize there so that it becomes interesting to the potential customer. And also, again, it kind of keeps their attention on me because it's more than just a talking head. Like, I'm moving around and I'm interesting to watch and follow, and that gets you and buys you more time with people as again, you're more interesting to listen to.
Long story short, tomorrow while I've got a truck here, we're going to basically have room to do a couple more neighbors along with these guys, and I can do the pricing at about 70% off the first service because we're already here. Right? So there's no fuel costs or travel expenses. The more we can do on the same area, it obviously is cost effective for us.
So a very important part of this section, and that is being able to kind of drop that Black Friday, what I'm offering. The reason I'm on your door, I've told you who I was, kind of what we're doing. I've name dropped and pointed out a common concern that I've heard. Now it's kind of time to say, hey, here's what I'm offering. And remember the elements of Black Friday. If you're not familiar with my breakdown of Black Friday, reread that chapter in my book or my audio book. Go out and get the book if you haven't got the book. And again, one of the first parts of the book, we talk about this idea of Black Friday and how when there's a combination of a limited time with a limited supply at a discount, that's what gets people to act. That basically gets a reaction from people. And so that's the element here that I'm emphasizing in this idea of Black Friday.
How long have you guys been here?
We just hit a year.
Just hit your year now? Okay, very good. First home, or you?
No, I came from a smaller townhouse and upgraded to this.
It's great.
Got a 11-month-old and
perfect.
And then another one on the way. So.
Oh, you're kidding me! Look at you, busy man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We're doing the 1-2 punch and then we're done.
Then you're done. Okay, here you go. Well, I know that Mohan, they just had a little baby 4 months ago, so they got a little 4-month-old.
Yeah, there's a lot of
young family.
around here. Yeah.
So now once I feel like I've given a proper initial approach, now it's time to kind of cut to the chase and do what I call a conversational close. A lot of people say, why don't you just try to sell the guy right there? I don't really believe in the idea that in the first 30 to 45 seconds you're going to sell anybody anything unless somebody's already, primed and just ready to go and they've thought about it or have been looking it up. I just don't think that's usual in door-to-door sales. What I think happens here at this point, my goal is to get that potential customer talking to me. So I'm going to ask them a very easy question. It's going to give us a chance to talk a little bit more. And again, as you see with this customer in particular, is I use this conversational close. I elaborated a little bit, asked a few more questions. Then I gained his trust. And I gained his trust. Now he starts telling me personal things about him and his family that I've built that good rapport with him that you don't get if you're just going through a pitch and trying to close them and trying to get the sale right away. Doesn't really happen that way most of the time in door-to-door sales. So looking for that opportunity to just build off of, conversation we had earlier and really just gain kind of that trust and friendship with them.
And really, I think that's why a lot of people like us is because we're not the company that comes in and just sprays up the house. We spray all over and, kind of spray and pray type of method. We actually use, let me show you, I'll give you a little bit of a sense of what we do in the house.
So this last section, again, what I'm going to move into after my conversational close, and we've talked a little bit, well, then there's enough interest there built that I can move right into my value build. And my value build is going to start to explain the benefits of our service. And of course, I'm going to use some of the information that I've already gathered from him to customize that value build and move on. So again, that's a little breakdown of the initial approach. That's just the very first steps of being a really good sales rep, is hammering in a very effective initial approach. So hopefully you've learned a bunch from this. And we'll break down future pieces of my sales processes. And certainly that's a service that at D2D Millionaire we offer all of our sales reps, is the opportunity to share audio and video of them that I can break down and see areas that need improvement, areas that can make them better to maximize their potential. But best of luck on the doors and happy selling.